Alright, lads, welcome back to a new video. A bit of a different one this time around. Instead of looking at every team's rumored transfers, I suggest we talk about our very own club and exclusively our very own club in this episode, shall we say, of the Transfer Rumor Mill. It is time to talk about Newcastle United and it is time to talk about Anthony Elanga and Hugo Ekitike. Starting things off with Anthony Elanga. He is obviously the one who has already been announced by now, so we finally have our first summer signing through the door, and what a massive relief that is. It is a position we have been looking to strengthen for quite some time, and now we have finally gone out and done so with Anthony Elanga. And without delving into the stats, which we will in a few minutes, let's just talk about the player himself, Anthony Elanga. To me, he seems like an incredible lad who is very well suited to this group of players. Someone who will not only be able to profit from a pre-existing connection with Alexander Isak, but with William Osula as well, because we have seen the two of them are mates. And let's be completely honest, this is a game played by humans, so the human element of two people liking each other is something that does matter because it means they will be spending time with each other, and it means maybe Ilanga and Osula can get the kind of understanding that Isaac and Murphy have had throughout the last season, which we saw them get a lot of joy out, to be completely honest. Jacob Murphy knew exactly the running patterns Alexander Isak likes to take on. He knew exactly where he would be in the box when he would arrive there, and that it bore extremely great results at the end of the day. I mean, we're back in the Champions League, and that Champions League money has meant we did now manage to spend 50 million on Anthony Elanga, which is a lot of money. But on the one hand, it's not our money, which we have used to sign for Anthony Elanga. With our money, I mean the fans' money, it's the club's money. So that isn't really our concern. But if it means signing one less player, then you can be concerned about a transfer fee like that. But I'm going to be completely honest, 50 million to me for a player like Anthony Elanga in today's market seems kind of maybe not reasonable or fair, but expected, if you know what I mean. Because Noni Madueke has been quoted close to 50 million pounds as well. Sherky looks to be an absolute steal. Manchester City got him for around 30 to 35 million pounds, I think. Kudus is going to Spurs for 50 plus. Morgan Gibbs White supposedly is heading to Spurs as well for 50 million plus. So that is just a benchmark, and we have paid that benchmark for someone who suits Eddie Howe football down to a T. Anthony Elanga is a physical specimen. He is an absolute monster. And to be honest, Eddie Howe is creating a team consisting of absolute physical monsters. We now have two players in Anthony Gordon and Elanga who spent more than a complete percentage of their time on the pitch last season in full sprint. Meaning these are guys who are not only okay with getting their shirt wet and doing everything that is necessary for the badge, but they've made it into one of their main selling assets. And that's unbelievably exciting because one thing you will never be able to say that it is through a lack of effort from those two guys that we haven't managed to score multiple goals in a single game. In terms of a systematic fit, Eddie Howe also does like to play on the break, on the counter attack, and Nottingham Forest were the best counter attacking team in England last season, in my opinion. Meaning, not only is he suited to a more counter attacking way of playing football, he is also devastating on the counter attack. Absolutely devastating. If we wanted to get into Anthony Elanga's stats for a quick moment, I think he's third if you looked at the Premier League across the last two seasons instead of one season. When it comes to assists, one more assist than Jacob Murphy in that time. So again, that's incredibly exciting. He is top six. in the top 6 percentage of European wingers when it comes to assists, and he's got 3.7 progressive carries on him, which is a very great stat. Murphy, for context, has 3.1 progressive carries per 90 under his belt, which is nearly, or it's actually more than half an extra progressive carry which Anthony Elanga brings to the team. But it's more so about the fact that we can now give Murphy a rest for 1 or 2 games, get Elanga involved, get Elanga on the left hand side and Murphy on the right hand side, and give both Gordon and Barnes a rest. That's so unbelievably important, especially in the European season. He does have quite a low shot number, which is something I worry about a little bit. I mean, he's got only 1.5 shots per 90. That's really not a lot for a forward, but he does have a very, very good shot accuracy of 56%. Yeah, 56%, which is very high, especially for a winger, meaning maybe we just need to convince him, or the coaching staff need to convince him to take more shots, maybe miss 1 or 2 more shots than he is missing right now, but to just get yourself in those dangerous positions more often and get test the goalkeeper more often. He receives about 8.3 progressive passes per 90 minutes while at Nottingham Forest. Jacob Murphy receives 8.8. I don't necessarily think that's because Jacob Murphy is better than making himself available to get to carrying the ball forward. I think it's more so due to the service he is getting. And now Anthony Elanga is moving to Newcastle United. He is getting service from Sandro Tonali, from Bruno Guimaraes, from Alexander Isak when it's coming from the middle uh, up front, from Kieran Trippier or Tino Livramento, from Lewis Hall. It's class. That's some absolutely magnificent service. So I expect those numbers to go up drastically. He is also a bit of a free kick specialist, especially when it comes to crossing the ball, dropping the ball into dangerous areas, finding teammates from dead balls, but also taking some shots himself. He is very adept at taking free kicks, something, I mean, we have some free kick takers in Tonali, Fabian Scher, Kieran Trippier, but I don't think it's a bad idea to get another one in there, especially given Sandro Tonali doesn't really take a lot of free kicks for us. He used to do that for AC Milan and Brescia. Kieran Trippier isn't an out-and-out starter because Livramento and Hall are such a good partnership at the fullback positions. And Fabian Scher, I personally like him better on the long free kicks than the short free kicks because I think he lacks a bit of accuracy where someone like Elanga could maybe find a corner with a bit less power. He's also in the top 4% of wingers in Europe for fouls drawn, something we have seen Bruno Guimaraes, for example, absolutely excel at. Last season, there was no player in the league who got fouled more than Bruno Guimaraes, and that was by quite a long distance. If you combine these facts with the appointment of, who is it, Martin Mark from Midtjylland, I think it's a week ago, who will now become our new set piece coach, I think that is something notable when it comes to Newcastle United's business this summer. We have looked for someone who is both adept at taking free kicks and winning free kicks. We have signed a new free kick coach, set piece coach, in Martin Mark. And when it comes to the next player, without getting into too much detail, he is a tall guy. He does know how to use his head, and he is a danger from set pieces. So we have actually very much so increased our threat from dead balls. And I think that has been overdue for some time, but it's also very, very, very exciting going into next season to add another string to our attacking and actually also defensive bow, because a lot of people forget a well drilled side when it comes to set pieces is also one that defends set pieces very, very well, and that's really, really important as well, especially in the modern game. Elanga attempts three successful Elanga also attempts 3 take-ons per 90 minutes, but he only is successful with about 1 of those three, so that is very much one of the things he still needs to work on. The fact of the matter, however, is he's so unbelievably fast. If the ball gets played over the top, he doesn't really need to beat his man in a dribble because he will just beat his man for pace and be through one on one on goal, which is very, very exciting as well. Because Gordon, on the other hand, on the other flank, you have two extremely explosive wingers in Gordon and Elanga, who you can use to break down high defenses if you want to get in behind. But if you have more of a low block where you need maybe more experienced players, more players who are comfortable with moving at a bit of a slower pace and can make things happen for themselves, I think Jacob Murphy and Harvey Barnes are your two very fantastic options. That's something Antonio Conte is doing with Napoli now as well. He is having wingers who are physical demons like David Neres and Dan Doy, but he also has the more technical, more insightful players like Noah Lang and Matteo Politano, for example. I think that's what our wing situation is looking like now as well, and that's so so great. Now, the news that broke yesterday. Fabrizio Romano and Ornstein have both reported that Newcastle United have turned their attention to Frankfurt's Hugo Ekitike. And this would be a signing not in replacement of Alexander Isak, but to complement him in addition to Alexander Isak. And this is so unbelievably exciting. Before we take a deep dive into his stats, let's talk about the fact that we have been pursuing Hugo Ekitike for quite a while. If you remember back in 2022 when or the takeover happened in 2021, but then the turn of the year happened and in January and both in the summer window afterwards, we were very much interested in Hugo Ekitike. The deal in January just about didn't happen before the deadline passed, and then in the summer he was off to PSG, which, I mean, at the time I was upset as well because I saw we needed a young striker. Alexander Isak hadn't come into the club yet, and I had put my hopes upon Hugo Ekitike. But if we're being completely honest, a French-born striker who gets the opportunity to join a new project, which was undoubtedly sold to him as a PSG project, which from then on was going to focus more on French local talent, which, I mean, by now it has, but Ekitike unfortunately hasn't proven to be one of them. But he has also shown he isn't the type of person to take a setback and just give up. He went looking for game time away from the Ligue 1, moved to Eintracht Frankfurt, and he has absolutely exploded into life there. And he has actually also shown us two very interesting sides of his game throughout the season. In the first half of the season, he played as a second striker to Omar Marmoush. They interchanged with each other, but they were always both on the pitch. This means we have already seen that Hugo Ekitike is adept at playing with another centre forward through the middle. This is something very exciting for Newcastle. On the other hand, as soon as Marmoush left in January, he played as pretty much the sole number 9 at Eintracht Frankfurt. And given the fact he finished the season with 19 goals and 11 assists in all competitions, I think we can all agree this has been a very successful season for Hugo Ekitike, despite the fact that it's very much been a season of two halves. He has about zero point 0.6 xg non-penalty xg per 90, which puts him into the top 10 percentage of European forwards. Again, great statistics. He takes about 3.8 shots per 90, which again is very, very good for a striker. He has a shot accuracy of about 40%, which is, if you remember, 15% less than Anthony Elanga's is, but he is taking more than three times the amount of shots Anthony Elanga is each 90 minutes. So there is the discrepancy for you. He's also a striker, and I mean, if you're taking that many shots, 40% still isn't a bad shot accuracy. It's not great, but it's definitely something that still can be worked on, as he is still very young and needs to work on his composure. Apart from that, He has 1.6 key passes per 90 minutes, which is something I want to get into as well, because he isn't just a forward who creates chances for himself or gets on the end of chances created by his teammates. He creates chances for his teammates as well. Like I said, 1.6 key passes per 90 minutes. Definitely not something to be scoffed at for a center forward. That actually means he's in the top 5% for players in his position in Europe. He also has an 83% pass completion rate, which means he is very much looking to get his teammates involved into the attack and into play as well. But actually, maybe even more impressive are his take on numbers. I'm gonna read these ones off real quick. He has 4.3 attempted take ons per 90 minutes, of which 2 are successful. That puts him both, for both statistics, in the top 4% of European forwards. He is in the top 6% for European forwards for both his total carrying stats and his progressive carry stats, and he's in the top 4% for European forwards when it comes to his progressive carries per 90 minutes, which are at about 3 per 90. He has 2 progressive carries into the final third of the opponent, which is again in the top 4% of European forwards, and he has 1.73 progressive carries. So out of those 2 progressive carries per 90, 1.7 progressive carries go all the way through into the opponent's penalty area. This means when Ekitike gets the ball in his feet, he is so dangerous, creating for his teammate, driving into dangerous areas himself, or genuinely just standing into dangerous positions where his teammates can feed the ball into him. Hugo Ekitike is such an intelligent and such an exciting player. I am so excited to see him in the black and white first and foremost, but to see us break our transfer record for such a statement of intent, because let's be completely honest, that's absolutely what this is. Newcastle signing both Anthony Elanga and Hugo Ekitike before looking for a new central defender is unbelievable business. I am so gassed. But I want to know from you, how do you think both Anthony Elanga and Hugo Ekitike will do for Newcastle United? Will we sign Hugo Ekitike or will he be off to a different club last minute? Which other teams would you, or which other players would you like us to sign? How will we line up next season? Let everything know in the comment section below. Please make sure to like the video and to follow all our socials, Magpie 24/7 on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram. You know the deal. And I want to thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.